Welcome to lecture number 19. We are talking about topic 3.4, Philosophical Foundations of the American Revolution. The theme is American and National Identity. The learning objective is explain how and why colonial attitudes about government and the individual change in the years leading up to the American Revolution. The first key concept says Enlightenment ideas and philosophy inspired many American political thinkers to emphasize individual talent over hereditary privilege, while religion strengthens America's view of themselves as a people blessed with liberty. First, the Enlightenment was an intellectual movement that placed a higher emphasis on human reason as opposed to divine revelation. It also held that things will progressively get better as humans, through reason, find ways to solve problems. It coincides with the age of imperialism, the scientific revolution, and the age of revolutions. Historians debate over the causation or correlation of all of these, though the College Board seems to suggest that the Enlightenment was a huge catalyst for change, at least as far as the age of revolutions. John Locke was a prominent Enlightenment philosopher who had written about the idea of natural rights and the social contract. This was completely contrary to the concept of divine right of kings. Another concept of the Enlightenment, seen in the American Revolution, is going to be the idea of popular sovereignty. That means that the power that the government is going to have comes from those that it governs, not the other way around. The Enlightenment spread through a correspondence between colonial leaders like Ben Franklin and other European thinkers. A transatlantic print culture also developed that brought pamphlets and essays written by European philosophers to the colonies. While there were highly educated thinkers in the British colonies, it was an impossibility for the Enlightenment to occur or grow in America alone. By the 18th century, there were only 9 colleges in the British colonies, mostly serving as a place to train preachers for different denominations, and they lacked the resources to fund the arts, sciences, and philosophers as the royal courts of Europe did. Religion has an impact. The colonies were a very religious group. Some people that moved to the colonies did so in search for a place where they could practice their religion without being persecuted. We saw that in John Winthrop's City Upon a Hill letter. This was a religious experiment in their eyes, and so they believed to have a divine blessing from God. Therefore, what they were doing in the colonies had to be right. It does seem ironic that these two very different, almost contradictory elements influenced colonists to arrive at the same conclusion, that they had to throw off the shackles of the monarchy. The second and final key concept is going to talk about the impact of common sense and the Declaration of Independence. It says, the colonists' belief in the superiority of republican forms of government, based on the natural rights of people, found expression in Thomas Paine's Common Sense and the Declaration of Independence. The ideas in these documents resonated throughout American history, shaping Americans' understanding of the ideals on which the nation was based. The pamphlet Common Sense that was published in January 1776 called into question the current status quo, in which England, a small island across the Atlantic Ocean, was controlling this much larger territory with many more resources. Thomas Paine also criticized imperial policies and Parliament, and for the first time we see King George III being criticized as part of this colonial discontent. Up until this point, all of the negativity was being directed at the imperial policies and Parliament, but the monarch had been off limits until now in 1776. His pamphlet was steeped in Enlightenment ideas. He continues to build on the work of John Locke's concept of popular sovereignty and the social contract. Paine in his lifetime claimed that the pamphlet sold over 120,000 copies, and then his later estimates went up to 500,000 copies. Those numbers are unreliable. It's really hard to know how many they actually printed. He would not have had any idea, even though he's the author, because he did not receive any royalties from printers who printed and distributed it. If it was the high estimate of 500,000, that would have meant that 1 out of every 5 people would have had a copy of Common Sense. That's just not feasible at this time, given the amount of printers in the colonies. Some historians have said that it's likely no larger than 75,000, and even 75,000 would be a stretch just because of the availability of printers in the colonies. The Declaration of Independence was written after reconciliation efforts with the Olive Branch Petition failed. The colonists tried to make amends. They generally did not want to leave the British Empire. After all, some of their arguments against taxation was based on the rights of British citizens. The petition attempted to go back to the way that things were before the imperial taxes and the colonial resistance. As the petition had been sent on the heels of the battles of Lexington and Concord and the Battle of Bunker Hill, King George was not open to the reconciliation message and rejects it. The Declaration of Independence is the next step for colonists. The Declaration blames the king for the troubles in the colonies, so very similar to Thomas Paine's Common Sense, it calls out King George III by name, even though Parliament was the one that they were really angry at. They were the ones that were passing all of these imperial policies that were taxing the colonists without their consent. The Declaration heavily relies on the social contract to defend independence, and it also draws on John Locke's natural rights. Thomas Jefferson takes the natural rights listed by John Locke of life, liberty, and property, and he turns them into the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration will be followed by further fighting and the colonies drafting new constitutions that sever ties with Britain. Finally, for the recap, Enlightenment ideas of natural rights heavily influenced the march to revolution, and common sense and the Declaration of Independence were important documents exhibiting the Enlightenment. Thank you for watching. If you would like to watch the next lecture, you can click on the video link on the screen. And if you are looking for more practice to help you on the AP exam, you can visit APUSHslides.com. I wish you the very best in all of your studying and look forward to seeing you back on the next lecture.